Hi, everybody. Welcome to Business Lunatics, the weekly show where four fearless loonies pull back the curtain on the wild, the wonderful, and sometimes downright ridiculous world of entrepreneurship. We talk about things with no fluff, no BS, just pure business madness. And today's topic, we're going to talk about gearing up for Q4 2025. What are some things that you can do to finish off the year in a strong way? What do you think, Steve?
Man, now's the time to put the pedal to the metal. Now's the time
Yeah,
to get your
isn't
plan,
it?
get your plans out, get the planning book out. It's Q4 starting in October. So yeah, you gotta do things. Well, I like to do things like the 13-week race, where you basically take your plan, your end goal for the last quarter of the year, and you break it up into 13 weeks, basically, which equals the quarter. 12, 13 weeks, whatever it is. But break it into little chunks, do a little bit each week, and then lay it out in a 13-week, what I call a race. Give it a name like if you're trying to get to, $50 million, race to 50 million, or Indy 500, or you call it whatever you want, but make it fun for the staff to have their goals that they're going to go to, their metrics, and what KPIs you're going to measure it by. And week to week, just do little bits and measure your progress. And you'd be surprised how much faster you'll get there, even in a time that's kind of tough like it is now. When things are rough, man, the rough needs to get going, is what I say. And the best way to do that is to plan. If you don't have a plan, or if you fail to plan, you can plan to fail, is really what the saying is and how it goes.
And just as much as we all network and meet with different people on Zoom throughout the week and through the days, some of the people I've been talking to in the last week, I've had some interesting conversations. And one of the things that seems to resonate is the fact that the idea of local business networking is coming back. And I found that and to be perfectly honest, I mean, it's been like, what are we here, 5 years after the
5 years
pandemic?
out.
I mean, in the last week was the first time I started hearing people talk about, you know, chambers of commerce or going to the business networking events or business happy hour. I had not heard, I mean, I listen, as much as I meet with a lot of people, I have to admit this was the first time in 5 years I actually heard somebody saying, "Yeah, I'm going to a business networking event in my local area." I'm like, "Really? You're
Yeah, I've
not
been
going
doing it for
on
Well, I'm
road?"
years.
going. I'm going to one tonight, and I've been invited to one tomorrow for lunchtime. So yes, that is coming back, and there's a new website actually called realnetworking.com that actually is designed to share all the different networking groups in your area, and it's just launched just recently. But back to Steve's point, I want to continue on that, and that is that you got to get everybody in line for that Q4. And the other thing is, I think you should actually make it fun. So you've got some contests. And so when you hit some milestones, you
Mhm.
celebrate with the team. You go out to lunch as a group. So you build that camaraderie within the organization. And everybody gets fired up because, okay, we hit a milestone. Boom. Now we go for the next one. Okay. So we set a goal for end of October. Then we set our goal for end of November, and then we set a goal for end of December. And if we hit those, you need to actually go out and celebrate with your team on
Absolutely.
that. And then when you hit the overall end goal for the end of the quarter, that should be a big celebration. It's the holidays as well. So that should be a time as a leader to really step up and lead by example and elevate your team to accomplish those goals.
And
I've been
that was something we talked about last week, doing things in short strides, right? In small
Yep.
Yeah, little
bits.
chunks, little bites.
Don't try to get too far ahead of yourself or try to bite off too big of a piece.
But that's why
Take it
the
in
13
small.
week race works, because you're taking one main thing you're trying to accomplish, say reach a certain dollar amount or sales or whatever, and you're breaking it into 13 weeks. And if you just accomplish that one little task for this week, it feeds into the next week and it builds. I was going to
Mm-hmm.
say real quick, I've been reading this book, The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it's all about, 2x, whatever. 10x is really what we're looking at. But the way that you actually do it, if you just think a little differently. So if you say in 10 years, I'm going to have $500 million in the bank account. Okay, that's great. Or in sales, whatever you want to call it. But that's 10 years out. The reality is too many things can change. A lot of stuff is not going to happen. Some things are going to happen that makes it different. But if you thought a little differently and said to yourself, in 3 years, I'm going to have $500,000 in sales or 5 million, whatever the number was. The moral to the story is you start thinking about what little things can I take out to accomplish what I want to accomplish in a shorter period of time. It's kind of like he references Elon Musk in the book and how Elon Musk, his whole thing is delete, delete, delete. Scientists build an item because they need to build it to completion, but it was never needed. So Elon's whole thing is delete everything, and if you need it, you put it back in. And that's what Dr. Benjamin Hardy's whole principle is that you're able to then focus on really the necessity of things, the necessity items, and you get a lot more done in a shorter period of time. So maybe for the next 90 days, you guys take your 2 or 3 year goal and see if you can get it done in 90 days. If you don't accomplish it, you'll probably get pretty close.
Yep.
Well,
And
but
There's
you're
the
also
other.
saying is like long-term goal versus short-term focus,
mm,
right?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to kind of bring up. It's I like, great book it's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And he says, I look at it a little differently. What's the one thing that you can focus on that can make the biggest impact on the business? So what's the one thing? Sometimes it could be talent. What's the one talent that you need to bring in that can make
hmm
the entire difference? Do you need a different CFO? Do you need a salesperson? Do you need just but let's focus on one thing. Not what's the one thing that will have a ripple effect in the business. And I do that all the time. And I look in areas of revenue. Very often there's a revenue source that has been ignored, that if you can look in that one lane, God, it can make such a big difference. And I've done that with so many people. That's one area. So you want to look at what's the hidden revenue that you haven't paid attention to, and what's the one thing that can make the biggest impact on the business. And the with that goes we talked about it, but I guess this is a great time to pull up and create these real. I call it putting a deposit in the relationship account. Who are you calling that you've done great work with? And you're sort of, tooting your horn, and you can say, what, let's review what we've done for you this year. And let's have a conversation. You want to solidify key relationships that have the ability to continue working with you because they're a high revenue, or they can refer you. But it's got to be proactive, because nobody's going to say, Rochelle, I haven't seen you for so long, let's chat. I have to make that initial
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
and say,
I agree.
what, let's review. I love our work together. Let's just really have a great one-on-one. You want to proactively do what you need to do to build very strong, influential relationships where you can make
Yeah.
an impact for them and they can make an impact for you.
Yeah, because I'm going to advance that a little bit more. Actually, not the word advance, but really elaborate on that a little bit more. When I was running with the previous company, one of the largest accounts that I brought into the company, every month we got together to review the previous month's business. And 5 minutes of that meeting we talked business. The next 10 to 15 minutes was personal conversation. What have you gone to? What restaurants have you liked, didn't like? What vacation you're planning to go on, et cetera. And this was a director of a really large government organization. But because I had that relationship, I could name drop that person, and I ended up getting other departments in the government to utilize the service because of exactly what you just mentioned, Rochelle. I had built a relationship, and it went beyond business, and that's a point I really want to emphasize. You got to step out of the business lane and actually talk to them as people. And that's what I did with this Persian because, she was going to Jamaica. So my wife used to hang out in Jamaica. So we talked a little bit about it. Where you going in Jamaica? Oh, yeah, I haven't been there, but my wife's been there and blah, blah, blah. And we had some fun conversations. And she always looked forward to our conversation.
I like the angle that you didn't talk social first, like most people do. You socialize, how you doing? How was your vacation? What's going on? How's the kids? And that's how most interactions go. But you actually had the business part first. Write down the business, get it done. So now you're leaving the
It's off the
lasting
plate.
thought, and you're leaving the lasting thoughts on good thoughts and good conversation and friendly tone. That's smart. I like that. That's pretty cool. I've never really thought about doing it that way. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
thank you. Yeah, it was, yeah, we got it done. And there's issues that came up, but she knew that if, the issue got brought up to my attention, I got it taken care of right away. And she got copied on the information that it was taken care of. So there was never a concern about, is it going to get taken care of? They knew it was going to get taken care of.
Cool.
While you guys were talking, I also checked out realnetworking.com, and Freddie, like you said, I mean, it's a platform where you can check out, what's in your local area. I'm not sure how exactly they gather the information, but you can put in your zip code, take a look and see what's going on. And with that, one of the things I was thinking about, and perhaps something that we don't do very often, is we don't give our viewership, our listeners, something that they can take with them, so to speak, aside from our knowledge and our experience. But aside from realnetworking.com, I was going to suggest also similar in concept is M3 Linked. And M3 Linked has two sides of their puzzle, which is entirely online, but more importantly, they were operating prior to the pandemic with local events, and it's nationwide. And when I say nationwide, obviously probably most likely um in the larger metropolitan areas, but certainly something that I think a lot of people should take a look at is going back to Rochelle's point about developing these relationships is, I think it's time to get back in front of people, right? And so uh, build out those relationships, go to the networking events in your local area, because ultimately, I mean, let's face it, I mean, you can um, we can talk about Zoom and how we all developed this relationship online, and we got to know each other and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we just like it, to be able to just
The
have
human
somebody in front of
touch.
us. You got that human touch. You got that cocktail in your hand or whatever, your beer or whatever, and you just want to say, hey, have a good evening, that type of thing.
Yeah.
These are these things that you can do today or now in building out for Q4, because ultimately, as we, I can't remember if we mentioned this or not, but one of the things I always like to talk about is that there's only 90 days in the United States where you actually do business, and it's from Labor Day to Thanksgiving. If you want, drag it out another couple of weeks into mid-December, and that's about it. After
Yeah.
that, I tell you, we all have every excuse in the book for the other 9 months, as far as
Yes.
vacations, times off, or whatever the case might look like. The only thing that happens between September 1st and December 31st is Rosh Hashanah, and that is it.
And Yom
So,
Kippur.
but,
Don't forget Yom
well,
Kippur.
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm good. And
And
so
M3 linked looks like they
And you
have
got you
community.
got Thanksgiving in there.
Oh yeah, don't
I know
forget
you got
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. My point though is that everybody's locked into on at their desk up through Thanksgiving. And so you need to figure out how are you going to gear up for Q4, right? You need to figure out. And I'm suggesting, and I'm kind of building on what Rochelle said, you need to develop relationships. And based on the meetings I've had in the last week with various other
Yeah.
people are starting to talk about local business networking. Oh, let's
I
go
met a
do
guy
it.
today
Yeah,
through
well,
my
to
outreach program who wants to get together and meet, and we're meeting on October 3rd, Friday, as a matter of fact, just before we got on this call.
Yeah. 2 days ago, I went to lunch with a friend of mine. We've become friends. He's a government contracts specialist, so he helps businesses navigate the general services agency with the federal government. And him and I worked together, and that's where I landed some pretty large government contracts. We got together, and he talked about another networking group, and he turned me on to. And we just got together for lunch. It was just really a social event. I was, so again, what Melih was saying, going back, reaching out, and sometimes it's just good to go and grab lunch with somebody you haven't talked to in a while.
Yeah.
You want to make a real big impact, you can really make it on a personal level. It's 100%. I'll give you two examples. It was a client that I had years ago. Her daughter was in college, and she was looking for a internship, and I was able to introduce her to somebody, and she got the internship. I can't even tell you. To this day, if I told her to do anything, she would do it for me. She was so appreciative. And the other thing is, especially if you know somebody in your network that is going through a rough time. Years ago, I had a vendor of mine. She comes into my office and I go, nothing personal, but Lori, I mean, you don't look your best. That's an understatement. And she said, her mother was just diagnosed with breast cancer and she was beside herself. And we're talking years ago, and I went out and I got two books. It was, Chicken Soup for the Soul. There's only about 150 of them. And at the time there was one for cancer. And I bought two copies, one for her and one for her mother, and they were so relieved because they were so frightened, and the mother didn't think she'd make it a week, and she wound up living, I don't know, like 15 years later. But that book gave her hope. Like, what can
Hmm.
we do to give
Yeah.
somebody that is priceless? You take
And you
somebody out,
don't,
you take someone for a tuna fish sandwich, big deal. You give
Right.
somebody hope, priceless. So where do we
eh,
want to put that personal attention? Where do we want to focus? What did we say? What's the one thing? Who's the one person that you can make a difference with? Is there a book you can FedEx them? Is there just a flower, flowers or whatever? Where can we make that impact? And that people are online, they're paying for ads, they're doing everything, and they're doing it because we want to draw attention. But let's get really clear. Who do you know that just a simple phone call or a book or something personal can really make a difference?
Oh,
You can get an
absolutely.
Amazon. One last thing, those frames that have the pictures moving every 2 seconds.
yeah.
You could tell somebody they just came back from a great trip, and you could FedEx them one of those frames and said, "I know you came back from a great trip. Let's make those memories last. Put it in this frame." You make such an impact. And
Yeah.
that's what we
Yeah.
need
But you
to do.
don't
We need
know
to
unless you ask.
Yeah.
You got to ask somebody, hey, how you feeling? Hey, how you doing? What's going on? And I think that's an overlooked art that really goes a long way in building and maintaining relationships because you never know until you ask them.
Sure. And that brings up the point that I was going to emphasize on Rochelle is I've got a friend that's a business coach, and he's had some health issues. And recently he just lost his wife. And so I just reached out to him, week and a half ago with a phone call just to touch base and see how he was doing. Nothing else, nothing business, just how is he doing? Is there anything I
Yeah.
can do to help out? And again, one of my quotes that I talk a lot about is the little things are really the big things. That was a little thing that I did to give him a phone call. But to him, that was a big thing because he's by himself. He doesn't have his wife anymore. And he's an older gentleman and he's gone through some serious health issues.
Yeah.
And so that's when you got to step out of the business part and you actually got to come from the heart a little bit and reach out to somebody with no expectations, just be
So
genuinely a
put that
good
in your
person.
planning. That should be in your planning in your 13-week race. Maybe make it that you're going to call 3 people a week.
Right.
How long can it take? 2 people a week. You make a huge impact on
Yeah.
your business,
Exactly.
on their business, with
It
just
was
two
going to
people.
impact you as well, positively, because you're going to feel
Yeah.
good. Because I felt terrific after I got done talking to him because I knew he thanked me for calling him and thinking of him.
Yep.
And that was emotional a little bit, but that little thing is really a big impact to somebody. And you're absolutely right, Steve. I think that should be a goal for everybody that we tell is reach out to 3 people a week, between now and the end of the year, and with no agenda.
I
Well,
do it
I
all
mean
the time
that.
when I'm driving. That's my favorite time to do that. I'll just call someone, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I mean that goes back to what Rochelle said. Giving someone hope is priceless,
Right.
Yeah.
right? I mean, and that hope, or what we, I don't want to get into all the details as far as we all can define how we, decide hope is, but hope can be anything in this context, right? It's about helping someone out, and it's about giving them a different perspective. It's about giving them something that they can chew on, and it benefits them, and it's long lasting. More importantly, between you and them. I think these are the type of things that help to um, focus your attention. Let's say in this, in the context of this show's topic, focus your attention on how you're going to race to the finish line in 2025.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
We all feel
And
that we want to matter. And when you bring attention to somebody and they recognize that in your eyes they matter, once again, that's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree. Absolutely. So what else
Yeah,
can
that's
you
a
do to really pep up
yeah.
2026?
Well,
What else can
Steve,
we do to
earlier
prepare?
you
Oh, we lost Melih. Hello, Melih?
Yeah.
Ah,
give
technology.
it a
Gotta
second.
love it.
Okay.
Well, I think that we hit some good things because um, putting that positive energy out is also going to attract positive things.
Yep. And if the market, like people, I could walk out all day long. Oh, the Fed's lowered the rate. Okay, great. A quarter. Thanks. And we can get into politics and wars and all the other stuff, but that's not the point. The point is that when it gets tough, you got to get tougher and continue to move forward. If you're the one that's working on it now, you're going to see the rewards come later. Amelia, you're not frozen. You're back. What were you going to say, my friend?
I was, I did freeze my internet connection
You did.
because you guys all froze on me. I'm like, okay, so my end is not working. Anyway, I was going to say something earlier. You mentioned M3 Linked. It sounded like you went to that website. What did you have any comments about it?
Yeah, I saw it. It looks like it's based out of Detroit. There's like 8 or 9 cities that it's in. It's not everywhere, but there are a good
No,
number
they
of
are
cities.
everywhere, and I don't know if
Are
it's
they?
just not showing up. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
because it
not based
said
out of.
community, and that's just all I saw.
Yeah.
Maybe that's who's connected to them. I don't know.
I
I've
think
not heard.
the actual M3 Links is actually based out of Phoenix. The reason I think Detroit shows up is there's a lot more activity there.
Well,
That'll do
Phoenix
it.
is a big
Which happens to be
Phoenix
my
is a
backyard, but
well, Phoenix is a big networking group because I used to run a networking group in Chicago
yeah.
for several years quite successfully, and then I replicated it in Detroit area, Metro Detroit, and that was quite successful. I came here to try to replicate it, and I was competing with 27 other networking groups, so I just abandoned
Wow.
it because I couldn't get
They
going
have
because
one
there's
in
a
New
lot
York.
here.
They have one in New York. I just did a search for M3 Linked Space New Jersey, and the
Yeah.
closest one is New York. So they do have them.
No, but it's a decent sized network. Number one, it is if you want to do networking on both online and locally, this is a great group to take a look at. I know the guy that runs this operation, Joe Beck. By all means, if you're going to do networking and networking is a thing to get back into locally, I think this is a way to do it. And guys, on that note, we're coming into 25 to 30 minutes on our show, believe it or not. We could keep talking forever on
It's
this.
crazy. We just make this, we don't make it up,
I
but we come
know
up with the idea for
we
the
just
show right in the beginning of the show.
what it
This
took
is
us
not
15 minutes to
planned.
get
Yeah.
took
This
us
is
15
not
minutes to go
planned.
through admin stuff and then come up with a topic, and before you know, we're done. So on that note, Rochelle, let's start with you.
Hey, what do we want to
Takeaways.
do to make 25 strong? Dig into the. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of opportunity, both personally and professionally. Dig into those relationships.
Cool. Freddy?
Over the next 90 days, set up some plans, make sure that your team is all aligned with it. And when you hit some milestones, celebrate with everybody in your whole stakeholder. So that includes employees, contractors, suppliers, distributors, complementary business, ancillary businesses, and watch the magic happen.
You made a good point there. Steve.
Very good point. And I would say, little bites. Take your goal for the 90 days, break it out over a 13-week race and make it fun, make it a theme. There are some themes out there. You can look for quarter goal themes, search the internet. There's plenty of really good, great ideas on what you can do. But I agree with Freddie. Celebrate with everyone. And that does include
I think
vendors,
the word celebrate
contractors, all of
is,
that.
yes, celebrate's a good word in this case. So, guys, as you know, as we go through these shows every week, I make my notes as far as who says what, and I take little clips of everything each of you say, including myself. And so, my summary is going to be this: Q4 isn't about racing to the finish; it's about racing with intention, and that I think covers everything we talked about.
Bingo.
Yeah,
Boom.
man. I'm all about
Mic
Boom.
AI with
drop.
intent.
Mic
So
drop.
boom.
There you go. So anyway, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. That's it for this week's Business Lunatics. Hit follow, subscribe, join the Loonies next week for a more no fluff, no BS business madness. Thank you very much.
See ya.